Good morning, everyone. My name is Parisa Verma, and I am a junior at Yale University, and I'm honored to be here today as a youth delegate for the World Women Davos Agenda. And today, I will be introducing our next session on Dassault Systèmes, Virtual Twins, Bridging the Women's Health Equity Gap. And I am pleased to introduce our moderator, Ms. Anne CHEVRIER, Marketing Manager at Dassault Systèmes.
And welcome everybody. So I'm happy to have a second moderation on this time on health, and especially the health equality gap. We have one life, one shot, and it's not the moment to miss out even on any diversity group whatsoever. So what is the program for the next 45 minutes? It will be a 15 minutes keynote explaining where technology is at today, what is possible, what is impossible, what is possible tomorrow. And for this, I invite on stage Christian HALTINER. He is the Managing Director of Dassault Systèmes Switzerland, XCOM member Eurocentral, and highly experienced in innovation and digitalization, also in the healthcare sector.
Thank you very much, Anne. So, warm welcome from my side. Good morning, everyone. It's an interesting topic, and it's even, I would say, it's even a little bit a challenge to talk on that topic. And first of all, I have to apologize that my manager, Sabine Scheunert, is not here. She would have loved as well to talk to you. So, what is the topic today? And I try to make that a little bit interactive and as well do a little bit storytelling, because as we have no slides and illustrations, so I hope that I can really entertain you. So equality moonshot, that's a little bit the topic today. So if we talk really first maybe on moonshot, what is a moonshot, right? So imagine you have a rocket to bring that to the moon and there are people in the rocket. So if you shoot this rocket to the moon, there's only one opportunity, right? You have to do it right the first time. So how do you do that? There are millions of systems that interact together, that have to work, and you have to make it right. So that's a huge challenge, right? And if you think about it, it's a little bit the same with our health, right? In the end, you have one life, one health. So how do we treat it, and how do we improve that we really get somehow safe through our life? So I have the privilege to work for an outstanding company called Dassault Systèmes. And I think we were capable to change the world, and we still do, by our combination of science and technology, what we do. And that you understand what I'm talking today on Virtual Twins, you have to understand a little bit the history of Dassault Systèmes. So 40 years ago, we introduced more or less 3D models in the aerospace industry. It was really a breakthrough for humanity, because it was the first time that we somehow had, at one point in time, a physical model of a complete and very complex product, right? And so the technology evolved over time, because you could really see the power, what that means if you have a complex model, a virtual model, where you can test, simulate, and validate, and see maybe things that you would not have seen and not have predicted before. So I think the kind of model and this type of virtualization was very fundamental for the progress of the industries and as well for humans, right? And if you look how it evolved and the technology evolved, because you have to bring the different dimensions together in these models, right? It's mechanical, it's electrical, it's software. As well then in the biosphere, you have different simulation capabilities. And in the end, it's really science and technology that you have to bring together to create these virtual twins. But if you look today where we are, you can really say we nearly bring the distance between these virtual worlds and the real world to zero. So we really believe at Dassault Systems in the future that the virtual worlds will extend and improve the real world. So there will be a kind of universes where you, as humanity, where you can imagine differently, where you can test and simulate differently, and then if you do it right and you have found the solution, you go in the real world. And in the real world, you take the real world data and feed it back in the virtual worlds to learn and improve again. So there will be a kind of loop, right? So we as Dassault Systems, we learned quite a lot in the discrete world, right? We have aeroplanes, if you look to cars, electrical car, right, where we as well were quite instrumental to bring the combustion engine stuff to electrical motion in this industry. We learned a lot in the discrete world. And then we said, okay, if you have this concept of virtualization in discrete world, what does that mean in the healthcare systems or in life science? And then we decided somehow, okay, health is really a crucial topic and we would like to improve the world. So why don't we start to create virtual human twins? What would that lead us as humanity if we would really have virtual models of humans? So and then what the question was, where to start, right? And finally, as we have a huge science community as Dassault Systems, we talked with the FDA in US, with the regulators, we talked with academics, we talked with leading scientists. And in the end, there was a common sense that we should start with the heart, because the heart is a very fundamental organ for humans, and it's quite crucial that we do there some improvements. And there was a common agreement to start with the heart. So we started with this Living Heart project. And the Living Heart project was in, and you can see it, by the way, there's a demonstration right away in the next room. The Living Heart project was a huge success over the last 20 years because it improved and evolved, and today we are really at the stage that you can say this virtual heart is really a kind of exact replication of a human heart, right? We get that close to reality that is really fantastic, and that it was a kind of proof point that we can go in that direction of virtual human twins. And I think one point is as well, if you have such a model and it works, you can take then real world data, for example, from clinical trials, right? And feed that back into the model so that you have an individualized virtual twin. And what we actually know, and there the equality topic as well kicks in. We know in healthcare that as well somehow the women are as well underrepresented in the healthcare systems, and are not treated equally. Why so? There are different reasons. There are business reasons, but there are as well reasons from a healthy perspective, because if you look to pregnancy, there are sometimes in clinical trials you have to be cautious, and therefore not so many studies were done on women. But if you take now the opportunity really with the virtual twins, and you can really have that type of real-world data, and you have a model, you can as well create somehow virtual populations, right? For example, of women's hearts, for example. And you can generate that kind of virtual data and virtual models to really then dig deeper and go in a more profound analysis on the disease. And therefore, I would say from an equality perspective, there you have then better and a more equal situation than we have today, right? So I think the whole motion of this virtual human twin strategy will lead in the end by the technology as well that there's a more equal situation in the end for women and men. If you look now to the complete motion and a little bit away just from the living heart, the whole motion continues. So there is as well a huge aspiration somehow that we do other virtual organs. For example, we are working on the living brain as well to see a little bit and dig deeper into the analysis for epilepsy. There's a motion for living eye as well. There's a project for living pregnancy. So actually, if you look to all these motions to really create that type of virtual organs, and we do that in cooperation with many scientists around the globe, if you put all that pieces together at one point in time, we are pretty convinced that there will be a complete model of virtual human twins, right? Actually, we do not know how long it will take us and the science community to get there. I think we advanced quite fast in the last 20 years, but there's still a way to go. It depends a little bit on us, how we collaborate with the scientists around the globe to get there. But we are pretty convinced that if we do it right, there's a huge opportunity in the end for humanity, right, and really to significantly improve the healthcare system. So sometimes people say this is all utopia, what you're talking about, right? Because if you really think about that you can have these virtual twins, then it's really quite exceptional, right? And what are we doing as Dassault Systems to get there? Of course, we are fostering the community around the globe to make that progress really happening. Because we see there a huge opportunity for humanity, and besides the virtual human twin, we go much faster and much deeper as well in other virtual twin motions. We do, for example, the virtual twins of complete systems, healthcare systems. We do the virtual twin of hospitals. We do the virtual twin of healthcare processes. So in the end, we try really to understand the complete healthcare system by this virtual twin approach, and as well to optimize, in that sense, the healthcare by itself by these virtual twin approaches. And I'm pretty convinced if we progress there, as well, the costs for healthcare will come down, right? Because if you improve that much and get as well better access to these systems for all of us, that will have a tremendous impact for all of us and for the better. So, that's it from my side. Yes, I think from a time perspective, we are done. I hope we could talk much longer on the subject, but I hope I could inspire you a little bit, and that you understand that there is hope for equality, right? By providing new science and technologies to create that virtual human twins, and as well then to lower the barrier and the cost in the healthcare systems for all of us. And with that, I would give back to Anne. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christian. So I hope you had a glimpse of what technology can do and will do. And it's definitely going to be a life changer. Now we're going on the panel, because I think it's always interesting to get some conversations, some interactions. And I have three magnificent ladies joining Christian, and I'm very, very happy I found them, and I'm very proud. I want to start with Mimi CHOONQUINONES. She's the founder and chairwoman of Partners for Patients NGO, a global volunteer organization dedicated to accelerating access to diagnosis, treatment, and clinical trials for the world's most underserved patients. And since this is not enough work, she's also the ambassador and senior advisor on public health and global health to the Pan-African Parliament of the African Union, meaning all 55 African countries. Mimi, please join us. The second special lady I would like to invite to join is DANAI SPENTZOU. She's accredited parliamentary assistant in the European Parliament, shaping European regulatory frameworks for digital health innovation, medical AI governance, and ensuring equitable access to breakthrough technologies across member states. Obviously, that is not enough. I don't know how you sleep, ladies. She's also coordinator of Young Voices in Health Policy, an independent network bringing together young professionals in the field of youth and health policy. And she is Youth Ambassador of Digital Health Literacy and Policy Hub. Please join us on stage. And the last lady is going to represent the industry, because like this we have tech, patients, governments. So industry, well, I'm really, really lucky I found her just yesterday. It's GKIKA. She's Deputy General Counsel and Global Chief Privacy Officer at Baxter International. She has 18 years of experience in pharma and medical devices, including Roche, Novartis, very small companies. She chairs MedTech Europe Privacy Committee and holds advanced law and executive training degrees from Athens, Brussels, Cambridge, and IMD. Please join us. Take this one. So, now that we saw what virtual twins can do in healthcare, my first question would be, what does it inspire you? What do you hope for? What are you expecting from this tech?
I can go first. I'm an A+ student usually. So, excitement. The opportunity is huge. We have in the center of this the patient. You talked about a loop, Christian. It's a loop we have to close, all of us sitting around this panel, and it can bring fundamental and unprecedented changes with the patient in its heart. So excitement.
From my part, I think there are two factors that are very, very important. One is closing the gender gap, so you can really help boost having more data and clinical trials run for women, especially pregnant women and breastfeeding women that are very unrepresented on clinical trials. And the other factor is how cost-effective and sustainable it can be when we try to run more on computer software and not doing it actually in reality on clinical trials.
Yeah, I can just repeat. So there is a study as well, I think, from McKinsey that somehow expects that we lower the cost around 1 trillion until 2030 if we go in that direction, if we use that technology, right? For I think if you really look to it, sometimes it's really, for some people it's really scary, right? That you say, okay, there's really a virtual human twin in the end, and there's a complete model, right? But I think if you look really as well back to the history of humanity and how these virtual twins as well in the discrete world helped us to progress, and you see the exceptional things that we achieved, right? And you now mirror that into the healthcare systems, and you mobilize all the science community to get there, right? If we achieve that, then it's really it's an outstanding opportunity, and if it will really be a game changer for humanity, right? And I think as well from an equality perspective, if you look to that, if you have that model, and if you can then feed back the data, if you can then produce as well somehow synthetic data, how we call it, right? And if you have then this population maybe as well of virtual human twins of women, and you can then really dig into it and do better, more profound analysis on the difference, the differences between men and women, because we are not equal, right? Even our heart, and it's something that we saw recently, that the heart is not the same from a man than a woman, so as well the treatment must be different. So if you see all these aspects, I think as well we can progress quite a lot. And therefore we are really motivated as Dassault Systems to use our technology and to expand our technology with the science community, because it's a global approach. It's not only our approach, it's a global approach, and really to improve for the better.
I agree with everything I just heard. And as a mother of twin girls, 25 years old, Faith and Hope are their names. That's my enthusiasm. I do believe that your technology, your science, and also the way you're able to translate that science into layman terms is going to not only address equity, it's going to address equality. And there is a difference between the two. Yeah. And there is also a solidarity that you're going to be bringing to healthcare in general. And healthcare has a big place for harmonization and convergence. And I think you'll be addressing a lot of that regulatory convergence, but also regulatory harmonization as well, across the board. And so that's where you're going to see a lot of level setting. And so very excited.
Amazing, thank you. There is one number that caught my attention. I don't know if you as well. $1 trillion. That is quite an amount to find and quite a collaboration needed. So I feel we're in the right spot with the Equality Moonshot. We're in the same rocket. So my next question to you is, how can you contribute to that, and what would you need for that to be reality?
So going back to what we were discussing about conditions that are very specific to women, but not only obviously, but to women, like hormonal-related issues. I would touch even breast cancer, pregnancies, premature babies, and so many others. We as industry can definitely contribute from both sides. As pharma, with all the clinical data, all the clinical validation that is required in order to appropriately use the technology, and which seems to be, with the regulators, supported, if you want, both the FDA and EMA. But on the other hand, the medical devices, also in our industry, that are the route that will close the loop that Christian again said earlier, with the big world data, with the real data that will feed in there. And lastly, AI that we have seen dominating this year's forum, it has entered very, very seriously in healthcare industry. We take it very seriously. So if we manage to educate the patient, the average person, if we manage to have the right privacy architecture and transparency in AI, we can build innovation that is safe and sustainable.
That was an amazing introduction of every topics aligned to cover everything. When it comes to health and everything we do now in the union, everyone talks about money and where does this money come from, where we are going to be more cost effective. And it's a discussion that always is on the table, either we want it or not. Unfortunately, when we discuss on the multi-annual financial framework in the European Union, it is quite reduced this time when we focus on health, because they focus on defense and other priorities based on the geopolitical situation. At the same time, we see this technology coming here, and even though it's virtual, it has real impact, and it can really revolutionize everything we do. So investing in this type of technologies will really allow us to boost our economy, our competitiveness, and then to build a resilient, future-proof health ecosystem for Europe that is very, very important. And it comes from regulatory aspects, connecting the different regulations that we have built before and the upcomings we have. So we've started with AI Act before, European Health Data Space, giving access to more health data that will be directly connected, correlated with that. We will have the revision of the medical devices regulation and the upcoming Biotech Act. All these together will create, hopefully, the right regulatory framework for these to really bring up the advantages we're looking forward.
Yeah, I can only say that, I mean, the challenge is very multidimensional, right? You have the regulators, and then of course you have the healthcare systems, you have science, you have the engineers in medtech, right? So the progress must happen everywhere. I think in the end it's a combination of all. I can just say one aspect that we have, for example, we run on our platform a lot of medical trials, right? And if you have then and clinical trials, and if you have really then the data, and what you can do is as well somehow to do a virtual twin of clinical trial in the end, and as well have some synthetic data that you can produce, right, as a new population more or less where you can then do the tests on. And even that will somehow will accelerate and speed up the whole clinical trial process, right? Because then you have, I would say, you have a human population where you do the clinical trials, but you have as well a virtual population, right? And this is already accepted by the regulators, right? So you can already today buy this virtualization, and you can speed up already the whole process, and that in the end means that the therapy gets faster to the patient. This is just one small aspect, but I think that is really a huge opportunity. I think we made finally, and we will continue, we made with the combination of science and technology huge progress, right? And I can just hope, because in the end we talk on quality of life, if we talk on healthcare, that we continue to push the boundaries, and I can just ensure that we do that as a company, right? Because in the end, there's a big purpose that we have, harmonizing product, nature, and life, and it's a statement as well for the quality of life of humanity, and so we are continue to push the boundaries there.
I agree with my peers here. Everything you've said, I agree with 100% and align with. And on top of that, when we look at 1 trillion, it sounds like a lot of money, and it is. And paradoxical factors could coexist. So when we look at 1 trillion, and when we look at African unions and the WHO's report that each year on the African continent, 227 million years of health life is lost. And then annually, $800 billion is lost through productivity loss. When you have those numbers on an annual basis, what is 1 trillion in value? So let's start there. Are we looking at 1 trillion as a number? Or are we looking at it as a value? So if we translate that into health care value, then what we're saying is we're making a significant dent quickly and accelerating to address the quality and equity gap, or to fix the quality or equity issues. What I would say is being able to understand prognosis in layman terms with digital twin systems and science will help patients everywhere, no matter where they live, no matter what their education level is. Clinical trials, consent forms are supposed to be written in 3rd grade, 4th grade, or 5th grade language. If we could have your innovation, which we are strongly convinced that it will be available to the greater world, if we could have the science and it be easily understood, then that 1 trillion translates into healthcare value that could be realized for everyone and anyone.
That is true. In preparation of the panel, I read that Europe has a unique advantage when you talk about strong data protection, excellent healthcare system, collaborative research. What is your opinion on that? And how would you leverage these for global leadership? Because it's nice if we have like certain geos advancing, but like equality is not in one geo.
I'm happy to go first. The truth is that, yes, we started back in 1994 with the Privacy Directive. We have the famous GDPR. We have the European Health Data Space, the first act on AI. Nonetheless, DANAI, if you would allow me, speaking as an industry, sometimes we have some challenges with over-regulation that is trying to keep up with the technology and the needs that are out there. And I feel that, especially after the Draghi report, the European Commission realized that we need to become in Europe a bit more flexible and inclusive without jeopardizing, the principles, the values, the human rights. And that is why we hope as an industry, and we anticipate that the so-called digital omnibus that tries actually to create a more pragmatic approach that will foster and enable innovation, that will enable training on AI, that will enable and allow the secondary use of data from clinical trials, will take us there. The other thing I would like to say, and I know there are many discussions about geopolitics, it's not only Europe. Women are not only in Europe, they are around the world. And health issues are around the world, and definitely what Dassault is offering, it's offered around the world. So as a lawyer in the industry, I have to say, to strike the importance of alignment around the world. We need to have a balanced approach to things. We need to have the flow of data. We live from the data. What is essential, and I heard that Switzerland's approach for AI, for example, is to keep the fundamental principles, the transparency, the respect, involve the patients, involve the regulators, sit in a table with this composition that we have today, and be committed to one goal. So this is my take. Yes, there is basis. There is also at the other side of the Atlantic. HIPAA is there since 1996, but we still need permissions, and there are efforts, and this is what is recognized both by the regulators and the industry.
It's true, and I welcome the comment. In general, omnibus and simplification is something we have been discussing in the last year, since the Draghi report, the Legge report. We have been discussing not only for digitalization, but also environmental, different kinds of omnibus. And it is very common, unfortunately, for the European Union to have different types of laws that sometimes complement each other, but also they have overlaps. So better coordination among the regulation we have is important. We have always been focusing on privacy and protection, but since European health data space, we give a lot of importance now with the safeguards we have on anonymization and on the public interest to have access to, for secondary use for the public interest, to a lot of data. This will be, if implemented correctly, it will be a game changer. But it doesn't mean that it will have to really eliminate the opportunities we already had now and the initiatives we had at the moment, because we had health observatories, health recorded records. We had a lot of initiatives already taking place and gathering data, and we need to see how they will be incorporated now with the implementation of the European health data space. Just to clarify also here, when we talk about GDPR, European Health Data Space and AI Act, there are different legislations. The one gives access to the data, the other one allows and creates a platform to gather these data, and the third one evaluates and edits, uses this data through an AI algorithm. However, they do have some overlaps, so the digitalization will be interplay, exactly. So this will be beneficial. But in order to do all that, I think one important factor is literacy, health literacy. And it comes across regulators, citizens, industry, clinicians, all healthcare professionals. So this is something that we really, really need to focus today and really help make this process go smoothly. And if I may, sorry, only to have a short comment. How many of you did you know about digital twins before this panel today? It's a very niche topic, even for the ones that we are working on health policy. So it really takes a lot to trust the innovation, to understand it, and then to accept it and to move forward. So literacy will be an important role in that. Yeah.
Absolutely agree. I would not discuss from a geopolitical standpoint about health, because I think there are differences between Europe and but I think what we are looking for really is what we are looking for is really, yeah, but it is really like that. We have not common regulations so far, but I think that hinders us not to really spread the progress that we make around the globe, right? So what we see, if you, for example, look to the Living Heart project, so there the progress was really huge, and the model is here, right? And you can use it in US, you can use it in Europe, and so on. But what I see, some take I would say this positive result and this outcome, like for example the Children's Hospital in Boston, where they use the model really somehow first before they go into a surgery. They used really to have the model, the heart model of the child, and to see how do they can best the surgery in the end, right? And there was a huge progress, right? Because in the end the results of the surgery got better. So they made a huge progress, right? Do we use that in every hospital around the globe? Guess what? No, right? So there is a ton of potential if we just take the advantage at the progresses that we made so far and educate, spread that, share that, collaborate more intensively. So I think that would be much faster and accelerate. For RegTech or regulations, I just have to say from our perspective, and we know that, you can imagine what you need in regulations as well for a satellite and then. So what we are doing, and there's certainly the progress of AI quite fundamental, is if you are an engineer and you have to engineer, is it a discrete product or is it a drug or whatever? In the end, there are specifications, right? And the specifications are somehow must be in line with the regulations. So what we are building more or less is an automated engine, more or less, to really coming from the regulations and put that in concrete specifications for new products or for new therapies and so on, that will accelerate generally the innovation process. So from a technology standpoint, we have a kind of answer on the increasing regulation part where we say, is this needed or not? I think we are over-regulated so far, but in the end, we try to deal the best from a technology standpoint with that, because a lot is then politics, but I think where we can accelerate much faster is really to spread and collaborate even better in the healthcare systems with the progress we already made, and there I see a lot of potential.
I agree. I agree.
Come on.
Yes. I will say, though, with an LLM, and my thesis and dissertation was on EU GDPR and the interplay with EU competition law, I will say, please, let's not have data for just getting data. Yeah. Let's not have data use agreements just for the sake of having a data use agreement.
Thank you.
Indeed. And it's the first time in my whole moderation career that I have a panel that doesn't discuss against each other. So I don't know more what to say, what to ask.
We discuss politely the issues.
But that is a really, really, really good... Oh, Mimi, you want to say something?
This is not to disagree, but this is to plant a potential dream in a project, which goes like this in 10 seconds. I've got twins. Their names are Faith and Hope. One is 5'7" and the other one's 5'1". What if there are digital twins that eventually give an opportunity for the things where we do see could be improved, gets improved.
Yeah.
And when there are things that we like, we keep. And what if the digital twin informs the companion as you're taking the therapy or whatever the therapeutic options could be, whatever treatment guideline options there are, what if it informs?
It's amazing. We can nearly hire you at Dassault Systems, because what if is something that we use in every sentence. And we also say, if you can dream it, you can do it. So how do we get into doing? Because now we were talking and agreeing, everybody is fully aligned, but how do we democratize personalized healthcare?
So I think going back to what you're doing as a product, what we create here, continuing to what Mimi said, is we build the vision of what should happen. And we hope we test it in reality. So what should happen? We should have everybody around the same table. We should have the industry, we should have the regulators, the tech industry, I'm talking about my industry by saying industry, and of course the patient. And we should aim to agree through the disagreement. We should rate the issues with courage and say, this is where we want to go. And we should try it. So this is what we try mildly today to create the twin of what should be the future. So we need collaboration. Yeah. It's inevitable. And we have seen in the US, for example, they started the CMS project about private and public partnerships. In the EU, and DANAI, I will let you talk about that, we have the Horizon projects, yeah, and so on and so forth. Yeah. For us as industry, it could not be a better way to move forward. We can have faster outcomes, cheaper outcomes, personalized healthcare. We could leverage on both pharma and medical, the rigor that we have in pharma, the technology from medical devices. We can advocate to the governments that, hey, health economics, we can help you advance, we can help you save money, and eventually contribute to the patient. That is in the core to everything we do.
I hate to say, but I will agree completely.
There we go, the twin is working.
We're discussing in general and vision here, and we're not going into details, so maybe then when we talk about data protection, intellectual property, we would have some different points of view, but in this direction, I think we are all aligned, and cooperation is indeed very important among industry, patient organization. The involvement of the patient is important in every step through the regulatory process as well. And I will also go back to the point, because I really like the question you make, and democratization is important. We don't want to create digital twins or other innovative technologies as elite tools. We want everyone to have understanding and access and trust them and use them. So literacy, again, I would say that is the most important factor. Mm-hmm. And even for us, when we work on it, either as regulators or other actors in this field, to have the understanding, like for me, I only understood when I actually participated in a workshop and I saw it in how it is and I felt it, because it's very hard to grasp this virtual environment and reality. Mm-hmm. So information to accurate access, having more data sets, but they're checking the training so that there is no bias, also that we use correctly and we don't continue the mistakes that we already have in our dataset systems. Will make us, it will make it easier to move forward and in a way that is actually correct and help us go to the outcomes that we want. Yeah.
You also agree?
Of course. But I think there's a more fundamental topic, and I agree that the collaboration is maybe really the key of all of it. What we try and what we see over the last decades, right? Why are we doing these virtual twins of products, processes, and so on? Everything that you can imagine. In the end, it's a model, right? If you look to humans, and if you look to complex systems, how do you understand it and how can you debate around and discuss around? You need something to imagine. Eh? So we put the virtual twin normally in the center of different groups to get the same reality. Because this is so fundamental for humanity that in the end you really understand the challenge of each other. So that's one of the main purposes that we do as well with our would say virtual twin platform called 3D Experience, that we say, okay, let's put the model in the center, right? And let's imagine you have a virtual twin of a human, you have a virtual twin of a hospital, you have the virtual twin of a medtech company, and so on, and you combine these virtual twins into a complete virtual twin of the healthcare system. You can imagine that. That's what we call tomorrow, there will be kind of universes where you combine the virtual twin into a complete virtual model, right? And now align all stakeholders around this virtual twin of the healthcare systems to really concretely see what are the challenges and then to put the regulations right, get more progress, do the data stuff right. So I think there's a way forward that I see and that we see, right? But it starts somehow with collaborating around a concrete model, and as well that people understand each other, right? So I think that's the way to go for many challenges of humanity, and healthcare is certainly one essential.
What I would say is very simple, and that is low cost, high value.
Amen. So, I'm basically happy that we all agree, because virtual twins aren't just about technology, they're also about collaboration, about trust, and about shared commitment. So I'm really, really happy that we have that here. And the moonshot is within reach when we work together. So if you want the first step, Innovation Zone next door, speakers available now. And I thank you for having listened to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.